Technology, art, entertainment. My name is Paul, and today we're going to be doing more 3D artwork. We're going to continue the trend with sculpting our demon skull, and we're going to sculpt the entire body eventually, but today we're just going to look at the spine and the pelvis. Now, basically any three-dimensional shape has one thing that you can't change about it in a sculpting program, and that is the number of holes it has. The cervical vertebra that I need to model for this particular demon skeleton has 3 holes in it. So long as you start with geometry that has the same number of holes, you can essentially turn it into literally anything that has the same number of holes. So basically, I just made a donut shape that had 3 holes in it, and I can manipulate that and sculpt it into cervical vertebra. Now, other parts of the spine don't have the same number of voids in the topology, so I can work with just basic shapes. But for the cervical vertebrae, I needed the that particular topology. I have never ever sculpted or modeled in any form or fashion a full skeleton before, let alone a spine. And the spine is probably one of the more complicated things I've ever had to reference. There's so many tight little things that go into the spinal column and how all the bones interconnect with each other. It's quite amazing once you find out how it all works. It's quite amazing how this stuff has evolved. It's absolutely incredible. But modeling it required a bit of patience for sure. And if there's any biologists or medical professionals out there watching this video, you'll probably notice I've got a lot of things wrong, and not just because I'm exaggerating certain things for the sake of this being a demon, but there's definitely some things that I didn't quite get from just referencing medical drawings and things like that. Definitely the Wikipedia is not a substitute for years and years of medical training. I'm not going to say that it is, but I think I got pretty close, but definitely not at the professional level of I'm no chiropractor. But if you look at the way the vertebrae connect, they have these sort of very intricate shapes that actually operate on almost like door hinges that connect at the sides towards the rear of the vertebrae. And then I'm modeling here and how they sort of latch up and connect to the one on the top of it, and then the one on the bottom will sort of reach up and brace up against, forming this axis of rotation that's actually nowhere near where I thought that these bones would actually rotate, when in fact they actually rotate more towards the rear. And then I found out some pretty cool stuff in modeling this, is that I don't know what to call them, the spikes or the fingers on the back of the vertebrae are actually, they're not really there for any other reason than for the muscles of your back and your neck to attach onto. So basically with these demons, I wanted to make sure that they had lots of room for big, massive neck muscles to attach. So I made these prongs on the back of the vertebrae a bit longer than humans would be. Now moving on to the thorax or thoracic vertebra now, and those only have 1 hole. So you start out with a basic donut shape and not a 3-hole donut shape. And yeah, the actual area where the central nervous system, the spinal cord, the actual nerves of the spinal cord go down the spine is not how I thought it was. It's actually crazily how the spinal cord actually goes down this hollow cavity that is sort of this hallway that the bones create. I thought it would go through the big rounded parts that you often think of as sort of the spinal column, but those big rounded parts are merely structural. They're there just to support weight and to act as cushioning. So that's actually, yeah, you learn something new every day, and I'm always learning new stuff when I'm picking up new projects, especially in biology or sculpting biological things. Always very cool. I like learning. But then I had a look at the thoracic vertebrae is actually the thing that sets them apart is the fact that they have ribs growing out of them. So you have to make sure that there's proper roots for ribs to grow out of. I'm not going to be modeling ribs in this video. I think that'll come in the next video. and how you have to make sure that there's enough padding for the various tissues in between the vertebrae to sort of sit there, or else it looks unnatural. With the ribs, I think I'm going to do a lot more referencing and whatnot before I can hop on those and see if I get the proportions correctly. As much as this isn't a human being that I'm modeling, it is very much hominid anatomy. Here, one of the things I can do in a sculpting program is a bit cheat and be able to manipulate a whole bunch of vertebrae at once in order to get the correct perspective. Now we're skipping ahead a bit, and I've already done the lumbar vertebrae here, and I'm moving on directly to the hips or the pelvis of the demon. Now I started out with a very human-like pelvis, and then later on I moved it to make it more animal-like. And this is a male demon. The female demons are very different to the males. Females are very human-like. So I sculpted this sort of animal-like but very male pelvis. And the hips are one of the like basically a very quick way to tell two skeleton, like the gender of a skeleton is to look at the hips more than anything. That's the biggest point of sexual dimorphism in humans, is the shape of the pelvis. So I wanted this to be overtly male, very triangular. But overall, I mean, I think in general, listening to me rambling on about skeletons is probably very boring. But in general, I'm having a lot of fun making some really cool, spooky, scary skeleton stuff. As I said, this is the first time I've ever attempted to model a skeleton in any sort of detail, and I'm having a lot of fun with it. And I'm going to see if I can do the entire thing, every single bone, and get that going. I know I'm cheating a lot of this. This is an art project, not necessarily a biology or a medical project. This is purely for art, but I want to be as accurate as I have time to be. So I think that would be really fun to get that going and do a whole skeleton and maybe even animate it or do like muscles and flesh over it. I think that would be pretty cool. I think the whole project could be something that sort of adds a bit of variety to anybody's portfolio. So yeah, I'm just going to add a bit more detail here in the hips and making some adjustments here. But anyway, I definitely want to say thank you all for watching this video on sculpting a demon spine. I will definitely do more of these in the future, and you all make sure you have a lovely day. Do